At a busy railway station in a city, there lived a beggar who survived by asking passengers for alms as they passed through. One day, while begging, he noticed a tall, well-dressed man. Seeing his refined appearance, the beggar thought, "This man looks wealthy. If I ask him for alms, he will surely give me a good amount." He approached the man and pleaded for money. However, instead of giving him anything, the man looked at him and asked, "You always ask from others, but have you ever given anything to anyone?" The beggar was taken aback. "Sir, I am just a beggar," he replied. "I have nothing to give. How can I give anything to anyone?" The tall man smiled and said, "If you can't give, then you have no right to ask. I am a businessman, and I believe in the principle of give and take. If you have something to offer, only then should you expect something in return." Saying this, he boarded the train and left. The beggar sat there, pondering the man's words. They struck a chord in his heart. "Perhaps I don't receive much because I never give anything in return," he thought. "But I am just a beggar. What do I have to give?" For 2 days, this question troubled him. Then, on the third day, while sitting near the station, he noticed some flowers blooming on nearby plants. An idea sparked in his mind. Why don't I give flowers to those who give me alms? Excited by his newfound purpose, he plucked a few flowers. That day, as he begged on the train, he handed a flower to each person who gave him money. People appreciated this small but thoughtful gesture and accepted the flowers happily. From that day on, he began picking flowers every morning and offering them in return for alms. He soon noticed that more people were willing to give him money. However, he also observed that on days when he ran out of flowers, fewer people gave him alms. One day, while begging on a train, he saw the same tall man who had inspired him. The beggar immediately approached him and said, "Today I have something to give you. Please give me alms, and in return, I will offer you these flowers." The man smiled, handed him some money, and accepted the flowers. "Wonderful," he said. "Now you have become a businessman like me." Once again, his words resonated deeply with the beggar. He realized that he held the key to changing his life. Stepping off the train, he looked up at the sky and declared, I am not a beggar anymore. I am a businessman. I can become rich." People around him thought he had gone mad, but the beggar was determined. 6 months later, at the same railway station, 2 well-dressed men were traveling. One of them recognized the other and extended his hand for a handshake. "Do you recognize me?" he asked. The other man hesitated and replied, "No, I don't think we've met before." The first man smiled and said, "We have met not once, but twice. Don't you remember the beggar you once spoke to?" Surprised, the second man said, "Oh, yes. You were the beggar I refused to give money to the first time, and the second time I bought flowers from you. But today you look so different. What are you doing now?" The first man replied, "Yes, I was that beggar, but today I am a successful flower merchant traveling to another city for business." He continued, "You taught me an important rule of life. We only receive when we give. This principle changed my life. I realized that I was never truly a beggar. I had always been a businessman, but didn't see myself that way. People weren't giving me alms. They were paying for the flowers I offered them. I reinvested my earnings into buying more flowers, and eventually I built a business. Today, I run a large flower enterprise, all because of the wisdom you shared with me that day." Both men smiled and continued their journey. This story carries a profound lesson about the power of self-perception and the universal law of giving and receiving. Often, we limit ourselves by believing we are incapable or unworthy of success, just as the beggar initially saw himself as nothing more than a beggar. However, true transformation begins with a change in mindset. When we shift our focus from merely taking to also giving, whether through kindness, effort, or value, we open doors to new opportunities and growth. The principle of give and take is not just a business rule. It is a philosophy of life that fosters mutual benefit and prosperity. Success is closely tied to how we perceive ourselves. If we see ourselves as small and insignificant, others will too. But when we believe in our potential and act on it, the world responds in kind. This beggar's journey to becoming a successful businessman reminds us that no dream is too big and no situation is too hopeless. If we dare to think differently, act boldly, and believe in our ability to rise above our circumstances,